The air on Epsilon 7 glowed with soft blue light. Kang Daiho walked carefully through the strange forest, his boots crunching on the crystal-like plants that covered the ground. Every tree here released a gentle glow, making the whole place look like something from a dream. He had been studying alien life on this planet for 6 months now, and he still found new surprises every day. Daiho was 28 years old and worked as a xenobiology researcher. His job was simple: find new creatures, study them, and write reports. Most days were boring. He would collect samples, take pictures, and return to his small research station before dark. The colony ship Mugunghwa orbited above the planet, home to 3,000 humans trying to make a new life in this distant corner of space. Today felt different. Daiho had ventured farther than usual, following strange marks on the trees. They looked like claw marks, but bigger than anything he had seen before. His scanner beeped softly, detecting movement ahead. He slowed down, keeping one hand on the stun gun at his belt. Then he smelled it. Blood. Lots of it. Daiho pushed through a curtain of hanging moss and stopped. His breath caught in his throat. Bodies lay everywhere. Massive creatures with dark armor-plated skin were scattered across the clearing like broken toys. These were Velthar, the apex predators of Epsilon 7. Adults could grow as large as Earth elephants, with 6 powerful legs, retractable claws like knives, and a ridge of spines running down their backs that could shoot poison. Colonial security had marked them as Class 5 threats. Stay away, do not engage. Extremely dangerous, but these Velthar would never threaten anyone again. Something had killed them all. Daiho walked slowly through the massacre, his medical training kicking in. He examined the wounds. This was not a fight with another species. This was Velthar against Velthar. A territorial battle, probably. The victors had left, taking their dead with them. These were the losers. Then he heard it. A soft, high-pitched sound, almost like crying. Daiho followed the noise to a fallen tree. Beneath its roots, 3 small shapes huddled together. They were no bigger than house cats with oversized heads and stubby limbs. Their armor plates were still soft, barely formed. Baby Velthar, younglings. They looked up at him with large, dark eyes. One of them made that crying sound again. Daiho's training screamed at him to walk away. These creatures would grow into killing machines. Bringing them back to the colony would be insane. But as he looked at their tiny, shivering bodies, he saw something else. He saw children. Orphaned children who would die without help. He pulled off his thermal blanket and carefully wrapped it around the younglings. They did not fight. Instead, they pressed against each other, seeking warmth. Daiho gently lifted all 3, surprised by how light they were. Their skin felt warm beneath the soft armor plates. The walk back to his research station took 2 hours. The younglings stayed quiet, occasionally making soft chirping sounds. Daiho talked to them as he walked, keeping his voice calm. He did not know if they understood, but it seemed to help. They stopped shaking. His research station was a small prefab building with basic equipment, a sleeping area, and communication systems. Daiho laid the younglings on his bed and quickly scanned them with his medical scanner. All 3 were malnourished and dehydrated, but otherwise healthy. He estimated they were less than 2 weeks old. He mixed a nutrient solution based on what the colonial database said about Velthar biology. The younglings sniffed it cautiously, then drank eagerly. When they finished, they looked up at him expectantly. That was when it happened. The smallest one crawled forward and wrapped its front limbs around Daiho's arm. The other 2 followed immediately, climbing onto him and clinging tight. Their small claws gripped his clothes carefully, not breaking skin. They pressed their faces against his chest and made a rumbling sound like purring. Daiho tried to set them down gently. They cried immediately, the same distressed sound from before. He picked them up again and they went silent, content. He spent the next hour trying different approaches. He put them in a warm box with blankets. They cried. He placed them near a heater. They cried louder. He offered food. They ignored it and cried. Only when he held them did they calm down. By midnight, Daiho admitted defeat. The younglings were wrapped around him like living scarves, 2 on his shoulders and 1 across his lap. Every time he moved, they adjusted their grip but never let go. He managed to send a message to the colony's wildlife services, requesting advice for relocated Velthar younglings. Then he fell asleep in his chair, too tired to care about protocol anymore. He woke at dawn to find the younglings still attached to him. They were awake too, watching him with curious eyes. When he stood up, they climbed around to his back, distributing their weight evenly. It was almost comfortable. Daeho went through his morning routine with 3 passengers. He made breakfast one-handed. He brushed his teeth carefully. He even managed to shower, though the younglings made unhappy sounds when water splashed them. Through it all, they refused to let go. His communicator buzzed around noon. A response from Wildlife Services. Daeho read the message and felt his stomach drop. Do not approach Velthar younglings. They imprint on the first large creature they bond with after trauma. This imprinting is irreversible and essential for their development. Without a bonded guardian, younglings enter metabolic shock and die within days. Contact xenobiology immediately. Daeho looked at the 3 creatures clinging to him. One had fallen asleep draped over his shoulder. Another was chewing on his collar. The third watched him with what looked like trust. He had not saved them. They had claimed him. His communicator buzzed again. This time it was a priority message from Dr. Park Ji-won, the colony's chief xenopsychologist. The message was short. Bring them up immediately. We need to discuss your situation. Daeho looked around his small station. He looked at the glowing forest outside. He looked at the younglings who now depended on him for survival. Well, he said quietly to his new companions, this is going to be complicated. The smallest one chirped in response, as if agreeing. Daeho gathered his essential equipment and requested transport back to the colony ship. As he waited for the shuttle, one thought kept running through his mind. What had he gotten himself into? 3 weeks had passed since Daeho brought the younglings aboard the Mugunghwa colony ship. 3 weeks of constant companionship with creatures that refused to leave his side. 3 weeks of arguments, tests, and worried looks from everyone around him. Daeho sat in Dr. Park Ji-won's office while she reviewed the latest scan results. The younglings were with him as always. They had grown noticeably in just 3 weeks, now the size of medium dogs. One sat on the floor beside his chair, head resting on his knee. 2 perched on the back of his chair, occasionally grooming his hair with gentle claws. 3 sprawled across his lap, sleeping. Daeho had started calling them by numbers because giving them proper names felt too permanent. He kept telling himself this situation was temporary. Someone would figure out how to transfer the imprint, and these creatures would go back to living normal Velthar lives. Ji-won sighed and set down her tablet. She was in her 40s with sharp eyes and gray streaking her black hair. She had been a xenopsychologist for 20 years and had never seen anything like this. The imprinting is complete, she said. Your biosignature is encoded in their neurological development. They recognize your scent, your voice, your heartbeat. To them, you are not human. You are pack leader. There has to be a way to break it, Daeho said. He had been saying this for 3 weeks. We have tried everything, Ji-won replied, pulling up data on her screen. Pheromone therapy to introduce them to Velthar scents. Behavioral conditioning with recorded Velthar calls. We even attempted a mild neural suppressant to dampen their attachment response. And every separation attempt resulted in acute stress. Their heart rates spiked dangerously. Their body temperature dropped. One time, 2 stopped breathing for almost 30 seconds. Ji-won looked at him seriously. If we force this, Daeho, we will kill them. One lifted its head and made a questioning chirp. Daeho automatically reached down to scratch behind the small armor plates on its head. One leaned into the touch, eyes half closing in pleasure. The council meeting is tomorrow, Ji-won continued. They want to decide what happens next. Daeho already knew what the council would say. He had heard the whispers in the corridors. People were afraid. Velthar had destroyed military units on other colony worlds. There were horror stories of entire outposts wiped out by packs of adult Velthar. These 3 might be cute now, but in a few months they would be powerful predators. What will they decide? Daeho asked, though he already knew. Relocation to a containment facility, or euthanasia. Ji-won's voice was gentle but honest. I'm sorry, Daeho. I know you care about them. 3 woke up and stretched, its small claws extending and retracting. It looked at Daeho and made a soft trilling sound. Daeho felt something break inside his chest. These creatures trusted him completely. How could he let them be locked in a cage for the rest of their lives? How could he let them be killed? There must be another option, he said. I am working on it, Ji-won promised. But you need to prepare for the worst. The next few days were difficult. Daeho continued his regular work in the biology department, but with 3 Velthar younglings following him everywhere. Most people kept their distance. Some looked at him with pity. A few looked angry, as if he had brought danger aboard deliberately. The younglings seemed to sense the tension. They stayed closer to Daeho, rarely exploring more than a few meters away. One became more alert, watching every person who approached. Two started making a low warning rumble when strangers got too close. Three, usually playful, stopped trying to chase small objects. On the fourth day, Daeho took them to the observation deck during off hours. He wanted them to see stars, to remember they came from a world beyond these metal walls. The younglings pressed against the large window, staring at the infinite darkness and distant lights. "That is your home down there," Daeho said, pointing at Epsilon 7 visible below. "Forests that glow. Mountains taller than buildings. Other Veltar." Two turned to look at him, then back at the planet. "It made a soft, sad sound, I know," Daeho whispered. "I know you do not understand. But you deserve better than this ship. You deserve to be free." A voice behind him said, "You really believe that?" Daeho turned. A man stood in the doorway holding a bottle of something that was definitely not water. It was Choi Hyun-woo, a miner from the processing division. Daeho recognized him from the cafeteria. "Excuse me?" Daeho said. "You think those monsters deserve freedom?" Hyun-woo walked closer, slightly unsteady. He was drunk. "My brother died on Kepler 186. Veltar Pack tore through his settlement. 23 people dead." The younglings moved, putting themselves between Daeho and the approaching stranger. One growled, a sound that was deeper and more threatening than it should have been from such a small creature. "I am sorry about your brother," Daeho said carefully, "but these are not the same Velthar. They are children." "Children that will grow up," Hyun-woo said. He took another step forward and his hand moved in a gesture that looked aggressive. Everything happened very fast. One lunged forward with speed that shocked Daeho. The youngling hit Hyun-woo in the chest, knocking him flat on his back. One stood on the man's chest, claws extended, face inches from Hyun-woo's throat. The growl became a snarl. "One, no," Daeho shouted. One froze. Its claws remained extended, body tense, but it did not attack. It looked back at Daeho, waiting. "Off, now." One stepped off Hyun-woo slowly, never taking its eyes off the man. It returned to Daeho's side, pressing against his leg. 2 and 3 flanked him on the other side, all 3 younglings watching the miner carefully. Hyun-woo scrambled backward, eyes wide with fear. You see? You see? They are killers." "He was protecting me," Daeho said quietly. "You made a threatening gesture. I barely moved. To a Velthar, intent matters more than action." Daeho knelt beside one, checking the youngling over. "No injuries." "Are you hurt?" Hyun-woo stood up shakily. "This is insane." "You are insane. Those things should be destroyed before they kill someone." He left quickly, nearly running. Daeho sat on the floor, suddenly exhausted. The younglings crowded around him, pushing their heads against his hand, seeking reassurance. He gave it, stroking their armored backs, telling them they were good, they were safe, but he knew the truth. Hyun-woo would report this. The council would hear about a Velthar attacking a human. It did not matter that one had shown restraint, that it had not actually hurt anyone. All they would see was the threat. Ji-won found him an hour later, still sitting on the observation deck floor. "I heard what happened," she said. "Security Chief Bay is filing a report." "It was not one's fault," Daeho said. "I know. I already gave my statement." Ji-won sat beside him. "But it does not matter. The council meeting is tomorrow morning. They have made their decision." "What decision?" "Removal by force if necessary. The younglings will be taken to containment facility Delta 9. They will be kept there until adulthood, then released on an uninhabited world." "Alone? With no pack? That will destroy them psychologically." "I know." Ji-won looked at the younglings. "I'm sorry, Daeho. I tried everything." Daeho said nothing for a long time. He watched 3 chase its own tail, still innocent despite everything. He watched 2 groom 1's armor plates. A bonding behavior Ji-won had explained was how Velthar showed family affection. He watched 1 sit guard, protecting a human who was about to let them down. "What if I refuse?" Daeho asked. "They will take them anyway, possibly charge you with endangerment." "What if I run?" Ji-won looked at him sharply. "Do not do anything stupid. Answer the question, then you become a fugitive. They will hunt you across every colonial system, and when they find you, the consequences will be worse." Daeho stood up. The younglings immediately stood with him. "Thank you, Ji-won, for trying." He left before she could respond. His mind was racing, forming a plan that was absolutely, completely insane. But as he looked at his 3 companions, he knew he had no choice. He had saved them once. He would not abandon them now. 2 months had passed since Daeho stole the scout ship Taeguk and fled the Mugunghwa colony. 2 months of running, hiding, and constantly looking over his shoulder. 2 months of living as a fugitive with 3 rapidly growing Velthar younglings. The younglings were not so young anymore. They had grown to the size of large dogs, their bodies developing the distinctive features of their species. Retractable claws that could cut through metal. Armor plates hardening into protective shells. The characteristic spinal ridge emerging along their backs, where venomous barbs would eventually grow. Daeho stood in the cargo bay of a freight ship called the Hanbit, watching his companions practice the exercises he had taught them. One stalked a piece of moving machinery, muscles coiled and ready to pounce. 2 observed from a high perch, analyzing the situation before acting. 3 wrestled with a bundle of old cargo netting, practicing its grip strength. "They are getting bigger," a voice said behind him. Daeho turned. Lee Soo-jin, the Hanbit's captain, leaned against the doorway. She was in her 50s, with scars on her hands and a face that had seen too much combat. She had offered Daeho passage 3 weeks ago, asking no questions and demanding only that he work for his keep. "Growing fast," Daeho agreed. "Another month and they will be as large as adult humans. And then, I do not know." Soo-jin walked into the bay, moving carefully but not fearfully. The younglings had learned to recognize her as safe. 3 barely glanced up from its netting. One finished its stalk and trotted over to Daeho for attention. "I served in the Colonial Marines for 15 years, Soo-jin said, watching one accept Daeho's scratches behind its armor plates. "Fought on 6 different worlds. Lost friends to all kinds of alien wildlife, including Velthar." Daeho tensed, but Soo-jin raised a hand. "I am not angry. I am telling you this so you understand what I saw." She crouched down, bringing herself to one's eye level. "We were evacuating a research station on Kepler 442b. A pack of Velthar attacked our transport. Killed 3 Marines before we could establish a defensive position. We put down 4 of them, wounded 2 others." She paused, her expression distant. "The wounded ones dragged their dead away. We followed them with a drone, expecting to find them eating the bodies. That is what animals do, right? But they were not eating. They were gathering stones and covering the bodies. Building cairns? Cairns, Daeho repeated. Burial mounds. They stayed there for hours, making sounds like crying. It was mourning, Daeho, genuine grief." Soo-jin looked at him. "That was the day I realized Velthar were not just animals. They are something more." One made a soft chirp and bumped its head against Soo-jin's hand. She smiled slightly and scratched its chin. "Your 3 are special," she continued. "I have been watching them. They listen. They learn. They control themselves when most creatures their size would be pure instinct. I have been training them," Daeho explained, "teaching them to think before acting. It is working. But you need to be careful. Security Chief Bay is still hunting you. Word travels fast in the outer colonies." Daeho knew. He had seen his face on wanted postings at every station they docked. The charges were serious: theft of colonial property, endangerment, unauthorized possession of dangerous xenofauna. If caught, he faced years in prison. The younglings would be destroyed. The next morning, everything changed. Daeho was in the Hanbit's small galley, preparing food for himself and the younglings, when Soo-jin rushed in. Her face was pale. "Turn on the newsfeed," she said. Daeho activated the wall screen. A reporter was speaking urgently. "Third colony to go silent this month. Colonial fleet has dispatched investigation teams to Epsilon 12, where all communications ceased 48 hours ago. Early reports suggest possible Velthar attack, though the pattern is unusual." The screen switched to footage from another colony. Buildings torn apart, scorch marks everywhere. And in the center of the destruction, a Velthar unlike any Daeho had seen. Its armor was scarred and broken in places. Metal implants jutted from its skull. Its eyes were wild, unfocused. "What is that?" Daeho whispered. "Keep watching," Soo-jin said grimly. The reporter continued. Increased Velthar aggression across the sector. Military experts are baffled by the coordinated nature of the attacks. Normally solitary hunters, Velthar are now appearing in organized groups, targeting colonial infrastructure with what appears to be strategic planning. More footage. More colonies. More of those strange modified Velthar with implants and scars. Those are not normal Velthar, Deho said. His scientific training was screaming at him. Those modifications, neural implants, combat drugs, someone did this to them. That is what I thought too, Sujin said. I made some calls to old military contacts. There are rumors. A corporate research division called Taiyang Syndicate. They have been capturing Velthar for experiments. Experiments for what? Bioweapons. Controllable soldiers that do not need salaries or retirement plans. Sujin's voice was bitter. They wanted to create the perfect weapon. Instead, they created monsters. 1, 2, and 3 had gathered at Deho's feet, sensing his distress. They pressed against his legs, offering comfort the only way they knew how. The massacre where I found them, Deho said slowly, that was not a natural territorial fight. It was a raid, probably. Taiyang has been hitting Velthar nesting sites across known space, taking adults for experiments. Sometimes they grab younglings too, but most do not survive the process. Sujin looked at his 3 companions. Your 3 were lucky. Too young to be valuable. Small enough to hide when the shooting started. Lucky, Deho thought. His 3 had watched their entire pack die, had hidden terrified in the roots of a fallen tree, had nearly starved before he found them. That was not lucky. That was trauma. What do we do? He asked. Right now? Nothing. We stay quiet, keep moving, avoid attention. Sujin stood to leave, then stopped. There is one more thing. Dr. Park Ji-won has been trying to contact you. She says it is urgent. Deho used a secure channel that evening, routing his signal through 3 different relay stations. Ji-won's face appeared on his screen, looking tired and worried. Deho, thank God. I was afraid something happened to you. I am fine. The younglings are fine. What is so urgent? I have been researching Velthar neurology for the past month, looking for anything that might help your situation. She pulled up data charts. I found something. Evidence of proto-sentience. What does that mean? It means Velthar are not just animals, Deho. They have the neurological capacity for complex thought, problem-solving, emotional bonds, even basic tool use. Ji-won leaned closer to her camera. They are sapient. Not like humans, but close enough that it matters. Deho looked at his 3 companions. One was organizing their sleeping area, moving blankets into a more comfortable arrangement. 2 was practicing opening containers with its claws, figuring out the mechanism. 3 watched everything, learning from its siblings. If that is true, then everything changes, he said. Sapient beings have rights under colonial law. Exactly. But proving it is the problem. I need living examples. I need to study Velthar behavior in controlled conditions, not in combat situations, or after they have been tortured by Taiyang. You need my 3. Yes. But bringing them back means you get arrested, and if they are not accepted as sapient, they get destroyed anyway. Ji-won rubbed her eyes. I do not know what the right answer is. Before Deho could respond, alarms blared throughout the Hanbit. Sujin's voice came over the intercom. We have a problem. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They are broadcasting Taiyang Syndicate signatures. They are scanning for biosigns. Deho felt cold. How did they find us? Does it matter? Get to the escape pods now. Deho grabbed his emergency bag and ran for the bay, his 3 younglings racing beside him. Through the ship's windows, he could see the approaching vessels. They were corporate security ships, armed and fast. This was not Security Chief Bay looking to arrest him. This was something worse. Taiyang wanted his younglings for their experiments. They wanted to know how Deho had bonded with Velthar when all their torture had failed. They would not stop. They would not give up. And Deho was running out of places to hide. The escape pod shook violently as it separated from the Hanbit. Deho held tight to the safety harness while 1, 2, and 3 braced themselves against the walls. They had practiced emergency evacuations, never thinking they would actually need the training. Through the small window, Deho watched the Taiyang ships close in on Sujin's freighter. He wanted to help her, but Sujin had been clear. Save yourself and those younglings. I have dealt with corporate thugs before. The pod's small engine engaged, pushing them toward the nearest moon. It was a barren rock with abandoned mining facilities, but it had atmosphere and gravity. More importantly, it had places to hide. They landed hard in a crater filled with old equipment. Deho grabbed his emergency supplies and led the younglings into the ruins of a processing plant. They would wait here until it was safe to signal for pickup. Hours passed. Then days. No signal came from Sujin. No friendly ships appeared in orbit. Just silence. On the third day, Daeho accepted the truth. The Hanbit was either captured or destroyed. Sujin was either dead or imprisoned. They were alone. "We need to move," he told his companions. "Find another settlement." "Get off this moon," one chirped agreement. Two tilted its head, studying him with intelligent eyes. Three was already gathering their supplies into a pile, understanding what needed to happen. They hiked for 6 days across the moon's surface, living in environmental suits and sleeping in caves. The younglings adapted quickly, learning to navigate the low gravity and thin atmosphere. They caught small creatures that lived in the rocks, sharing their kills with Daeho when his rations ran low. Finally, they reached a small outpost, just a dozen buildings and a landing pad, the kind of place people came when they wanted to disappear. Daeho traded his last credits for passage on a cargo hauler. The captain was an old woman named Kim Hana, who asked no questions and seemed unsurprised by his 3 unusual companions. "Velthar, eh?" she said, looking them over. "They are bigger than I expected." "They are still growing," Daeho said carefully. "Can they work?" "Excuse me? I am short-handed. Lost 2 crew members last month. If your friends can help with loading and maintenance, I will give you passage and meals. Otherwise, I can only take you as far as New Seoul Station." Daeho looked at 1, 2, and 3. They looked back at him. "They can work," he said, and work they did. The younglings learned quickly. 1 helped move cargo with its powerful limbs. 2 worked in the engine room, its claws perfect for reaching tight spaces. 3 learned to sort containers, its natural organizational instincts making it efficient at inventory. Kim Hana watched them with growing respect. "I have seen Velthar in combat footage," she said one day, "tearing through armored vehicles like paper. Never thought I would see them working an honest job." "They are smart," Daeho said. "Smarter than most people think." "So I see." Kim Hana scratched 3 behind its armor plates. 3 leaned into the touch, rumbling contentedly. "You training them for something specific?" "Just to survive. And to control their instincts." "Good idea. They are getting to the age where those instincts will be strong." She looked at him seriously. "What is your plan, Kang Daeho? Because the galaxy is a small place when people are hunting you." "I do not have a plan," Daeho admitted. "I am making this up as I go," Kim Hana laughed. "At least you are honest. Most people would pretend they know what they are doing." They traveled from station to station, world to world. Daeho worked whatever jobs he could find. He fixed equipment. He loaded cargo. He even cooked meals at a small restaurant on Kepler 62F, a planet covered in eternal storms. The younglings continued to grow. By the 5th month of running, they were nearly as large as adult humans. Their claws could slice through steel. Their armor could deflect small weapons fire. The venomous barbs on their spinal ridges were fully developed. They were becoming what evolution had designed them to be. Apex predators, but they were also becoming something else. Something Daeho had not expected. One day on New Seoul Station, Daeho watched them interact with a group of human children. The kids were playing near the docking bay, chasing each other and laughing. 2 of the children ran too close to a cargo loader, not seeing the danger. 1 moved faster than Daeho could react. The youngling intercepted the children, gently pushing them away from the loader just before it activated. The machine's arms swung through the space where the children had been standing. 1 herded the kids back to their parents, making soft, reassuring sounds. The children were not afraid. They reached up to touch 1's armor plates, giggling. The parents were terrified, pulling their children away and shooting angry looks at Daeho. But he had seen what they had not. 1 had not acted on instinct or training. 1 had acted with compassion. "You are teaching them more than control," Kim Hana observed later. "You are teaching them values, how to care about others." "I am just trying to keep them alive," Daeho said. "No, you are raising them." Kim Hana smiled. Like children, maybe she was right. Daeho had started thinking of them that way without realizing it. Not pets, not animals. Family. 3 proved it a week later. They were on a mining colony called Wonju 5, and Daeho had taken a job in the maintenance department. He was working alone in a deep tunnel when the ceiling collapsed. Rocks and debris buried him instantly, pinning his legs and crushing his left arm. He could not move. Could not breathe properly. His emergency beacon was in his belt, but his arms were trapped. He was going to die here, and no one would know until the end of shift. Then he heard digging, frantic, desperate digging. 3 appeared through the rubble, its claws tearing through rock and metal. 2 arrived seconds later, helping to clear debris. 1 forced its armored head under a massive boulder and lifted, muscles straining with effort. Together they freed him. Deho gasped air into his burning lungs. His left arm hung uselessly, definitely broken. His legs screamed pain with every movement. But he was alive. 3 pressed close, making worried sounds. 2 carefully licked his face, a Velthar grooming behavior that showed deep affection. 1 stood guard, watching for further danger. "How did you know?" Deho whispered. "How did you know I was in trouble?" 1 touched its head to his chest, right over his heart. Then it pointed 1 claw at its own chest. Bonded. They were bonded so deeply they could feel when he was in distress. The medical center patched him up. Broken arm, 3 cracked ribs, severe bruising. The doctor was surprised he had survived. "Your friend saved your life," she said, nodding toward the younglings waiting outside the treatment room. "Most people would be dead from a collapse like that." "They are good friends," Deho said softly. While recovering, Deho received an encrypted message. The sender was listed as unknown, but he recognized Jiwan's routing codes. "Deho, I hope this reaches you. Things are getting worse. More colonies attacked. More broken ones appearing. The colonial government is panicking and Taeyang is covering their tracks. They are blaming Wild Velthar for the attacks they caused." She paused and her face on the screen looked pained. "There is something else. Security Chief Bay has been asking about you. Not threatening. He seemed sympathetic. He says he wants to help. I do not know if you should trust him, but I thought you should know." The message ended. Deho looked at his 3 companions. They were sprawled across his small quarters, tired from the rescue. 1's claws were worn down from digging. 2's armor had scrapes and dents. 3 was sleeping with its head on his lap, occasionally making soft sounds. They had saved him, not because of instinct or training, but because they loved him, and he loved them back. "I am tired of running," he told them. 1 opened its eyes, listening. "Taeyang needs to be stopped. Those broken ones need help, and the galaxy needs to know what you really are." 1 stood and placed a heavy paw on his knee. "I know it is dangerous. I know we might not survive." Deho scratched behind 1's armor plates. "But hiding forever is not living. It is just waiting to die." 2 and 3 woke up, joining the conversation without words. They pressed close, their warmth and weight a constant comfort. Deho pulled up a star chart. Somewhere out there, Taeyang had a research facility. Somewhere out there, broken ones were suffering. And somewhere out there, the truth was waiting to be revealed. "All right," he said to his family. "Let us stop running. Let us fight back." The younglings chirped agreement. For the first time in months, Deho felt hope. The research station at Busan 7 orbited a gas giant, hidden from most traffic routes. It was the kind of place scientists went when they wanted privacy for their work, legal or otherwise. Deho and his companions arrived on a supply ship, posing as maintenance workers. The station was understaffed and overworked, making it easy to blend in. Nobody looked twice at 3 large Velthar following a human. Stranger things happened on frontier stations. Jiwan was waiting for them in a small lab she had rented under a false name. She looked exhausted but smiled when she saw them. "You got bigger," she said to the younglings. 2 chirped a greeting and bumped its head against her hand. "They are almost fully grown," Deho said. "Another month and they will reach adult size. Then we need to work fast." Jiwan pulled up screens filled with data. "I have been tracking Taeyang's movements. They have a research facility on Gwangju 3. That is where they take captured Velthar. How did you find this?" "I have contacts. People who owe me favors." She brought up facility blueprints. Gwangju 3 is a restricted world. Corporate security everywhere. But I found something interesting in their supply records. She showed him a list of chemical compounds. Deho's training kicked in, analyzing the names. These are neural suppressants, combat stimulants, forced growth hormones. He felt sick. They are torturing them. Worse than that. Jiwan pulled up more files. "They are trying to break the Velthar bonding mechanism. Replace it with chemical control. Create soldiers who follow orders without question." "But it is not working," Deho said, remembering the broken ones from news footage. "The Velthar are going mad." "Exactly. The bonding mechanism is fundamental to Velthar psychology. Without it, their minds fracture. They become violent, unpredictable, dangerous to everyone, including themselves. One made a low, angry sound. The youngling understood enough to know they were talking about others of its kind suffering. There is more, Ji-Wan continued. I analyzed your three. Their neurological development is remarkable. They are solving complex problems, understanding abstract concepts, showing emotional intelligence far beyond any animal. She pulled up brain scans comparing Daeho's 3 to baseline Velthar data. See these patterns? This is language processing. This is future planning. This is empathy. She looked at him seriously. Daeho, your 3 are not just smart animals. They are people. Different from humans, yes, but people nonetheless. Can you prove it? With time and proper documentation, yes. But that requires bringing them to a legitimate research facility, getting them recognized by the colonial government. Ji-Wan's expression darkened, and right now the government is terrified of Velthar. Every attack by the Broken Ones makes them more afraid, more willing to support extreme measures. Daeho sat heavily in a chair. 3 immediately climbed into his lap, too large to fit comfortably but trying anyway. The weight was crushing, but Daeho did not push the youngling away, so what do? We need evidence. Proof of what Taiyang is doing. Proof that Velthar are sapient. Proof that everything happening is caused by corporate greed, not natural aggression. Ji-Wan handed him a data chip. I have contacts at the colonial news networks. If we can get solid evidence, they will broadcast it, force the government to investigate. You want us to break into Taiyang's facility. I want you to expose them, show the galaxy what they are doing. It was insane. It was dangerous. It would probably get them all killed. I will do it, Daeho said. Ji-Wan nodded. I thought you would say that. I already have a plan. They spent 3 days preparing. Ji-Wan acquired security codes from a former Taiyang employee who had quit after seeing what happened in the labs. She mapped guard rotations and security weak points. She even found them a ship fast enough to escape once they had the evidence. The night before the mission, Daeho could not sleep. He sat with his 3 companions in their small quarters watching them rest. They had grown so much, learned so much. Tomorrow he was taking them into danger. I am sorry, he whispered to them. You deserve better than this. You deserve a normal life. One opened its eyes and made a soft sound. It stood and pressed its forehead against Daeho's, a gesture of trust and affection. 2 and 3 woke up, joining the contact. All 3 younglings touched him, sharing warmth and comfort and something deeper, something that had no human words. Family. The next morning they approached Gwangju 3 in a stolen cargo shuttle. Ji-Wan had forged manifests and authorization codes. Security barely glanced at them as they landed. The facility was enormous. Dozens of buildings spread across a barren landscape. Daeho could hear sounds from inside the main lab. Roaring, screaming, the sounds of creatures in pain. His 3 younglings tensed, recognizing the calls of their own kind. Easy, Daeho murmured. We helped them by staying calm. Stay close to me. They entered through a maintenance entrance. The hallways were clean and sterile, with cameras everywhere. Ji-Wan's codes worked perfectly, making them invisible to security systems. They reached the observation level above the main labs. Daeho looked down and felt his heart break. Dozens of Velthar were imprisoned in clear containment cells. They were covered in implants and scars. Some paced frantically. Others lay motionless, defeated. A few screamed continuously, their minds already broken. Recording everything, Ji-Wan said quietly, her hidden camera capturing every detail. In one corner, researchers were working on a Velthar strapped to an examination table. They were injecting something into its spine. The creature convulsed, making sounds of agony. 2 made a low, dangerous growl. Daeho put a hand on its armored back, a silent plea for patience. They moved deeper into the facility, finding more horrors. Younglings separated from their parents, crying in isolation. Adult Velthar fighting each other in combat arenas, forced to kill for entertainment. Bodies of failed experiments piled in disposal units. This is genocide, Daeho said softly. They are destroying an entire species. Keep moving, Ji-Wan urged. We need to reach the main computer. Get their research files. They were almost to the server room when alarms began blaring. Unauthorized access detected. Security to level 7. They found us, Ji-Wan said. Run, they ran. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed. Shouts of guards. The whine of charging weapons. 3 took point, using its bulk to break through doors. 1 and 2 flanked Daeho and Ji-Wan, protecting them. They reached the server room just as the first guards arrived. "Get the data," Daho shouted at G1. "I will buy you time." The guards entered, weapons raised. They saw the Velthar and opened fire. One took 3 shots to its armor, the rounds deflecting but leaving burns. It snarled and lunged, disarming the first guard with a precise strike. Not killing, just disabling. 2 moved like liquid shadow, dodging weapons fire and striking from unexpected angles. Its combat training had been meant for self-defense, but it was devastatingly effective. 3 protected Daho and G1, its armored body blocking shots meant for them. When a guard got too close, 3 swept his legs out and pinned him gently but firmly. More guards arrived. Then more. The younglings were outnumbered, taking hits, getting tired. "Got it," G1 shouted, pulling the data chip from the server. "We need to go now." But the exit was blocked. Guards filled the hallway. Their commander stepped forward, a man in expensive corporate armor. "Kang Daho," the commander said, "the runaway researcher. Taiyang has been looking for you, and your remarkable specimens." "They are not specimens," Daho said. "They are people," the commander laughed. "They are weapons, very valuable weapons. Surrender them and we might let you live." 1, 2, and 3 moved to attack positions. They were wounded, tired, but ready to fight. Daho was about to give the order when new sounds erupted from below. Explosions, gunfire, screaming. "Sir," a guard shouted into his radio. "The containment cells are breaching. The Velthar are escaping." The commander's face went pale. "How?" "Unknown. They are spreading through the facility. We need backup. The broken ones." In the chaos of the alarm, their cells must have malfunctioned. Now dozens of tortured, maddened Velthar were loose in the facility. The commander made a decision. "Evacuate. All personnel to emergency shuttles." Guards fled. The commander ran with them. Daho and G1 were forgotten in the panic. "We need to leave too," G1 said. "This whole place is going to be a slaughter." But Daho looked at his 3 companions. They were looking down at the labs below where their kind were trapped and suffering. "We cannot leave them," Daho said. "Daho, no. Those broken ones will kill anything they see, including you." "Maybe, but we have to try." He looked at 1, 2, and 3. "You do not have to come. I will not order you into this." 1 chirped and started moving toward the labs. 2 followed immediately. 3 looked at Daho, then at the exit, then back at Daho. Then 3 followed its siblings. Daho smiled sadly. "I guess we are doing this." G1 grabbed her medical kit. "Then I am coming too. Someone needs to keep you alive." Together they descended into chaos. The lower labs were carnage. Broken ones rampaged through corridors, destroying everything. Some attacked each other, their minds too fractured to recognize friend from foe. Others tore apart equipment and walls, venting rage against their captivity. A few simply stood and screamed, their sanity completely shattered. Daho led his group carefully through the chaos. 1, 2, and 3 moved with purpose, guiding him around the worst dangers. They seemed to understand which broken ones were too far gone, and which might still respond to calm behavior. They found the first survivors in a sealed observation room. 5 researchers huddled together, terrified. When they saw Daho's 3 Velthar, they panicked. "Stay back," one researcher shouted. "Do not let them in." "They are not going to hurt you," Daho said. "We are here to help." "Help? Those monsters destroyed everything." "No, Taiyang destroyed everything." Daho held up G1's camera. "We recorded what you did here. The torture. The experiments. The world will know." The researchers looked at each other. One woman stepped forward, her face pale. "We were following orders," she said weakly. "That is what they all say." G1's voice was cold. "Tell me, did those orders make the screaming easier to ignore?" Before the woman could answer, a broken one appeared at the far end of the corridor. It was huge, covered in scars and implants. Its eyes were wild, unfocused. It saw them and charged. 3 stepped forward, placing itself between the broken one and the humans. It made a sound, not aggressive but communicative. A Velthar call that Daho had never heard before. The broken one slowed, stopped. It tilted its head, confused. 3 repeated the call. 1 and 2 joined in, creating a harmony of sounds. The broken one swayed. The madness in its eyes flickered. For just a moment, something like awareness returned. Then the broken one collapsed, exhausted from its rampage in the brief moment of clarity. It lay on the ground, breathing heavily, no longer a threat. "How did you do that?" Ji-Wan whispered. "They spoke to it," Daeho said, amazed. "In their own language. They reminded it what it used to be." They continued through the facility, finding more trapped personnel and more broken ones. Each time, Daeho's 3 younglings tried to calm the maddened creatures. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it did not, but they never stopped trying. In one lab, they found young Velthar trapped in isolation cells. These were not broken ones yet, just terrified younglings stolen from their families. They cried constantly, their distress calls echoing through the empty room. 2 went to them immediately. It pressed against the glass, making soft, reassuring sounds. The trapped younglings quieted, drawn to the first friendly presence they had experienced in weeks. "We need to free them," Daeho said. "The cells are on biometric locks." Ji-Wan examined the controls. "I can override them, but it will take time. Do it. We are not leaving them here." While Ji-Wan worked, Daeho helped evacuate more survivors. Most were researchers who had participated in the torture, but some were maintenance workers and administrative staff who had simply worked here without knowing the full extent of the experiments. He saved them all. Even the guilty ones deserved trial, not death. One stood guard at the main entrance, warning them of approaching danger. Its combat senses were acute, honed by months of survival. When more broken ones appeared, one directed traffic, steering the violent ones away from the evacuation routes. "We have a problem," Ji-Wan called out. "The youngling cells will open, but the override will also release the remaining broken ones from the maximum security wing." "How many?" 20, maybe 30. The most dangerous ones they captured. Daeho looked at his 3 companions. They were already wounded and tired. Asking them to face 30 broken ones was asking them to die, but the alternative was leaving children in cages. "Open everything," he said. "We will deal with it. Daeho, open it." Ji-Wan activated the override. Throughout the facility, containment cells hissed open. The trapped younglings stumbled out, confused and frightened. 2 immediately began herding them toward the exit, using gentle pushes and reassuring sounds. The younglings followed, trusting this adult who showed them kindness. Then the broken ones arrived. They came from everywhere, massive, scarred, implanted with metal and madness. They saw the younglings and moved to attack, instinct driving them to eliminate weakness. 1, 2, and 3 put themselves between the broken ones and the younglings. What followed was not a battle. It was a dance. One moved with precision, blocking attacks and redirecting force. It never struck to kill, only to disable. When a broken one lunged, one would trip it, pin it, hold it until the rage burned out. 2 used speed and intelligence, staying always out of reach, drawing threats away from the younglings. It led broken ones into dead ends and sealed rooms, trapping them without harm. 3 was the protector, its armored body absorbing punishment meant for others. When younglings froze in fear, 3 would cover them with its own body, taking hits that would have killed the smaller creatures. But there were too many. Even with their skill, Daeho's 3 were being overwhelmed. A broken one broke through their defense, charging at the evacuating younglings. Daeho threw himself in its path, knowing it was futile. He was human, fragile. This creature would tear through him like paper. The broken one's claws were raised to strike when a stun bolt hit it from behind. Then another. Then a dozen more. Colonial Marines poured into the facility, weapons ready. Leading them was Security Chief Bay, the man who had been hunting Daeho for months. "Secure the area," Bay shouted. "Non-lethal force only. These creatures are victims, not criminals." The Marines spread out, stunning broken ones and creating safe corridors for evacuation. Medical teams arrived, treating wounds on humans and Velthar alike. Bay approached Daeho, who was standing protectively in front of the younglings. "Kang Daeho," Bay said. "You are under arrest, I know, for saving 43 lives today. 27 human, 16 Velthar." Bay smiled slightly. "That is the charge. Heroism in the face of corporate corruption." Daeho blinked. "What?" "Dr. Park Ji-Won sent us everything. The facility layouts, the evidence, her entire investigation." Bay gestured to the carnage around them. "We have been building a case against Taiyang for months. We just needed proof. You got us that proof. But I am a fugitive. I stole a ship. I violated. You did what was right when everyone else was following bad laws." Bay looked at 1, 2, and 3. Your companions there have shown more courage and morality than most humans I know. Jiwan emerged from the labs carrying the data chip. I got everything. Research files, financial records, communications with Taeyang executives. This is enough to shut them down permanently. Good, Bei said, because they are coming. On the horizon, more ships appeared. Corporate security vessels. Taeyang was not going to let this facility be exposed without a fight. Get everyone to the marine transport, Bei ordered. We are leaving now. The evacuation was chaotic but organized. Humans and Velthar were loaded together onto military transports. The rescued younglings clustered around too, seeing it as a protector. The calmed broken ones were sedated and secured humanely, destined for treatment instead of execution. Daeho's 3 younglings were the last to board. They made sure every other creature was safe before thinking of themselves. Your family is impressive, Bei said to Daeho as they lifted off. Most soldiers are not that selfless. They are not soldiers. They are just good people. People? Bei raised an eyebrow. Yes, people. The Taeyang ships opened fire as they escaped, but marine fighters intercepted them. The battle was brief but intense. By the time they reached orbit, 3 Taeyang ships were disabled and the rest were fleeing. Taeyang just became a criminal organization, Bai said with satisfaction. Firing on colonial marines is an act of war. Their corporate charter will be revoked. Assets seized. Executives arrested. What about the broken ones? Daeho asked. The ones who are too damaged to recover? We have facilities that can help. Real treatment, therapy. Some may never fully heal, but they will live with dignity. Bei looked at the rescued younglings sleeping in the cargo hold. And these little ones will go to sanctuaries, places where they can grow up properly. Can I? Daeho stopped, not sure how to ask. Can you stay with your 3? Bei finished. That depends on what happens next. What do you mean? Dr. Park Ji-won believes your Velthar are sapient, that they deserve recognition as intelligent beings. If she can prove that, everything changes. But proof requires testing, documentation, observation. More experiments, Daeho said bitterly. No, real science. Ethical science. With consent. Bei looked at him seriously. Are you willing to let your family help prove what they are? Daeho looked at 1, 2, and 3. They had fought for others today. Risked everything to save strangers. If that was not evidence of sapience, what was? I will ask them, he said. The choice should be theirs, Bei nodded. As it should be. The transport jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward the Mugunghwa colony and whatever came next. Daeho sat with his 3 companions, exhausted but alive. They had survived. They had exposed the truth. They had saved lives. But the hardest part was still ahead. Proving to the galaxy that Velthar were not monsters, but people, would require more than evidence. It would require changing millions of minds shaped by fear and prejudice. 3 rested its head on Daeho's lap, trusting completely. One chance, Daeho thought. Give us one chance to the tribunal chamber on the Mugunghwa was filled to capacity. Representatives from 12 colony worlds sat in judgment. News crews broadcast the proceedings across known space. Hundreds of people crowded outside the chamber, waiting for a verdict that would change everything. At the center of it all sat Kang Daeho, flanked by 1, 2, and 3. The charges against him were read aloud. Theft of colonial property, unauthorized possession of dangerous xenofauna, violation of quarantine protocols, and resisting arrest. Each charge carried years in prison, but the defense was ready. Dr. Park Ji-won presented her evidence first. Brain scans showing neural complexity matching human levels. Behavioral studies documenting problem-solving, emotional bonds, and abstract thinking. Video after video of the younglings demonstrating intelligence that could not be explained by instinct alone. These beings are not animals, Ji-won stated clearly. They possess sapience. They deserve recognition and protection under colonial law. Captain Lee Soo-jin testified next. She had survived the Taeyang attack on her ship and had traveled to the colony specifically for this trial. I watched those 3 work on my ship for months, she said. They learned tasks faster than most human crew. They showed initiative, creativity, compassion. She looked directly at the tribunal. If you define personhood by intelligence and emotion, then these Velthar qualify. If you define it by behavior and morality, they qualify even more. Security Chief Bei presented the evidence from the Taeyang facility. The recordings were difficult to watch. Tribunal members looked away as the footage showed torture, experimentation, and deliberate cruelty. Taeyang Corporation created the Broken Ones, Bei said. They drove peaceful creatures mad through torture, then blamed the victims for the violence. Every attack attributed to wild Velthar was actually caused by their experiments. The species is not aggressive. They are defensive, protective, different from humans in that regard. Then came the prosecution's turn. The colonial attorney was a stern woman named Han Yuri. She presented her case efficiently. No one disputes the crimes of Taeyang Corporation. They will be held accountable. But that does not change the fact that Mr. Kang broke the law. He stole property. He endangered the colony by harboring dangerous predators. He fled justice. She turned to address the tribunal directly. The question before you is not whether Velthar are intelligent. The question is whether one man has the right to decide which laws apply to him. If we allow this, we invite chaos. It was a good argument, legally sound, and it was working. Daeho could see several tribunal members nodding. Then one stood up. The youngling walked calmly to the center of the chamber. It looked at the tribunal members, making eye contact with each one. Then it turned to the prosecution. One placed a clawed hand over its heart. Then it pointed at Daeho. The gesture was clear. He is mine, I am his. This is family. Two joined one. It approached the evidence display showing images of the Broken Ones. Two touched the screen gently, making a sound of mourning. Then it looked at the tribunal, its eyes filled with an emotion everyone recognized. Grief. 3 was last. It walked to the rescued Velthar younglings sitting in the observation area. 3 touched each one gently, making reassuring sounds. Then it returned to Daeho and sat beside him, wrapping itself protectively around the human who had saved them all. The chamber was completely silent. Attorney Han Yuri looked shaken. That was coordinated, deliberate. Yes, Jiwon said softly. They just testified on their own behalf. The tribunal deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, lead judge Choi Myung looked tired but certain. We have reviewed all evidence. We have considered all arguments. This tribunal makes the following rulings. The chamber held its breath. First, regarding the charges against Kang Daeho, we find him not guilty. His actions, while technically illegal, were morally necessary. He protected sapient beings from unjust laws. Those laws are hereby declared invalid. Relief washed through Daeho, but Judge Choi was not finished. Second, regarding the status of Velthar. Based on the evidence presented, this tribunal recognizes Velthar as a sapient species deserving full protection under colonial law. They are not animals. They are people. The chamber erupted. Some cheered. Others protested. News crews shouted questions. Judge Choi waited for silence. Third, regarding Taeyang Corporation. All assets are seized. All experiments are terminated. All executives involved in these crimes will face trial for crimes against sapients. This includes charges of torture, murder, and attempted genocide. More chaos. More shouting. Judge Choi raised her voice. Finally, regarding the future of human-Velthar relations, this tribunal orders the establishment of protected sanctuaries on Epsilon 7 and other Velthar worlds. These sanctuaries will provide safe spaces for Velthar to live without human interference. Additionally, we establish the Velthar Integration Program, which will facilitate peaceful coexistence between our species. She looked directly at Daeho. Mr. Kang, you have shown us a path forward. You have proven that understanding is possible between species that seem fundamentally different. We ask that you continue this work. Will you direct the sanctuary on Epsilon 7? Daeho stood slowly. 1, 2, and 3 stood with him. Yes, he said. We will. The chamber erupted again, but this time in celebration. 5 years later, Daeho stood on a hill overlooking the Epsilon 7 sanctuary. The facility spread across a valley, a perfect blend of human technology and Velthar natural habitat. Buildings with open spaces, medical centers that treated Velthar with dignity, training areas where younglings learned to control their instincts while still embracing their nature. Dr. Park Ji-won worked here now, leading research into Velthar psychology and culture. Captain Lee Soo-jin had retired from freight hauling to help run the sanctuary's security, ensuring no one like Taeyang could threaten these beings again. Security Chief Bei visited monthly. coordinating with other colonies to establish similar sanctuaries across known space. But the real work happened every day in small moments. One had become a leader among the rescued Veltar. It helped integrate newcomers, teaching them that humans could be trusted. That not all two legs meant harm. Younglings followed one everywhere, learning from its calm strength. Two worked with G1, helping develop communication protocols between species. It had learned to use simple tools and was teaching other Velthar to do the same. Some speculated that within generations, Velthar might develop their own technology, guided by curiosity rather than necessity. 3 ran the Youngling program, caring for orphaned and rescued children of its species. It was a natural parent, patient and protective. Under 3's care, traumatized younglings learned to trust again, to play again, to hope again. And all 3 remained bonded to Deho. They were fully grown now, massive and magnificent. Their armor plates gleamed in the alien sun. Their claws could tear through steel. Their venomous barbs could kill with a single strike. They were apex predators exactly as evolution had designed, but they chose to use their strength to protect, not destroy. "They are beautiful," a voice said beside him. Deho turned. A young Velthar stood there, one of the orphans from the Taeyang facility. It was nearly adult-sized now, healthy and strong. "Yes," Deho agreed. "They are. One says you saved them. When they were small, I found them. They saved themselves by choosing to trust." The young Velthar tilted its head, thinking. 3 says trust is a choice, that choosing to trust is harder than choosing to fight. 3 is wise. Will you teach me? Like you taught them? Deho smiled. "I will teach you what I can. But 1, 2, and 3 will teach you more. They understand what it means to be Velthar better than I ever could." The youngling chirped happily and ran off to join the others. G1 climbed the hill to stand beside Deho. She looked older now, but happier. The weight of terrible knowledge had been replaced by the joy of discovery. "Another successful integration," she said. "That makes 47 younglings rehabilitated and living independently. And the broken ones. 12 have recovered enough to rejoin society. 8 more are making progress. The rest," she sighed. "Some damage cannot be fully healed. But they live with dignity here. That is something." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sanctuary bustle with life. Velthar and humans working together, not as master and pet, not as scientist and subject, as equals. "As partners, do you ever regret it?" G1 asked. "The running, the fighting, the years of uncertainty." Deho thought about that. He thought about cold nights and stolen ships, about the constant fear of capture, about wounds and exhaustion and desperate gambles that should have failed. Then he looked at 1, teaching younglings to hunt without killing. At 2, solving puzzles with human children, both species learning from each other. At 3, curled protectively around a dozen sleeping younglings, keeping them safe from nightmares. "No," he said simply. "I do not regret any of it." That evening, Deho sat on the porch of his quarters, watching the moons rise over Epsilon 7. The forest glowed softly, just as it had the day he found 3 terrified younglings hiding in the roots of a fallen tree. One emerged from the forest and climbed the hill.